Hey, how you doing? This is Marcus J. Carey. Today we're going to talk about software versus services businesses. A lot of times people want to start a business. Sometimes they do services. Sometimes they do software. I'm going to tell you what I prefer.
Keep the main thing, the main thing.
All right, let me just start off the top. Services versus software businesses. The names is kind of representative of what it is. And so a service is like, typically when you're doing a service, you're trading your time. You know, you work so many hours and you billing so many hours. And there's a lot of jobs that do that. Every regular, every job, pretty much if you work for somebody else, is probably a service. Even if you're doing software, if you write software for somebody, you're providing your own personal service to that company. But owning a software company, there's a really cool thing about owning a software company is you do the work once and then you can sell it time and time again. And that's why software, when you talk about selling a business, the multiples are so much higher. So if you sell a services company, that services company is probably going to maybe like if you make $1 million in a services company, you might be able to sell that company for $1 million or 1.5 or 2x multiple, meaning that if you make $1 million, you may be able to sell it for $2 million. But with a software company, if you know how to make $1 million with software-based sales, you might be able to sell that for 10x multiple. You might be able to sell that company if it's making annual revenue of $1 million in software. You could probably sell that company for up to $10 million. And why that is because if I buy your book of business as services, I still have to sell and I still have to retain that customer base. Or software, typically, if a bigger company buys it, they can exponentially sell that into all their customer base. And so without doing a lot of more work, because they have different sales channels, they can probably sell that software more efficiently than you did as a small company. So I tell entrepreneurs, figure out what you do well, try to figure out if you can put that into software. For instance, when I started my company, I knew how to do pen testing and testing security software or testing the infrastructure. So what I did is I built something that did automated testing of that through software. And that's a classic example of, for instance, if you're an accountant, if you do some kind of accounting pretty well, you might want to try to figure out how you can package that into a software service. And the most popular type of software service now is called software as a service. It's cloud service, SaaS. So if you're out there thinking about starting a business, I always recommend services are cool. You can make good money off that. But if you eventually want to sell that company and create generational wealth, you want to do it in software. So my recommendation is always figure out how you can package it up into a software as a service platform. And that's the company that I think most people should start. Because even if you're doing services, you could use your own software to provide those services. And eventually you can sell that because you built this awesome software platform. Hold on a second here. I almost uploaded this video and I realized that I didn't talk about when you're raising money for each type of company. It's way harder to raise venture capital for a services company than it is for a software company, because software companies can have exponential growth, and that's the kind of investment that venture capital is looking for. Whereas a services company, you're probably going to have to do like traditional stuff. If you don't have the capital, you might have to get loans, business loans, do business plans, all that. You might have to do some of that, but it's way more easier if you have a good idea and you can execute from a business perspective. Software companies are a lot easier to raise venture capital and get angel investors. So that's another reason why, if you want to do the venture capital route, software is where it's at. Well, that's it for now. Thank you for watching another episode of Hackish. See you next time.
I'm looking in the mirror, what do I see? I see the only person alive that could stop me. I'ma push it to the limit with it, everything I got. I'm a rocket ship in motion, I'm headed to the top.